I need to tell you about my mom. She might be better off dead." Those chilling words were spoken by a 24-year-old man to police investigators, just hours after his mother's lifeless body was found kneeling under a running shower. But here's what makes your blood run cold. 1 week before she died, he'd secretly taken out 3 life insurance policies in her name, worth over $1 million. She had no idea. Her other children had no idea. And when she was found dead in that bathroom, everything pointed to natural causes. Until the insurance companies started asking questions. What kind of person murders their own mother for money? And how far would someone go to maintain a fake life of luxury on social media? Before we dive into this disturbing case, I want to hear from you, our genuine cold crime cases family. Where in the world are you watching from right now? Drop your location in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and smash the like button because this story is going to take you on a dark journey you won't forget. And ladies, I've written something specifically for you. My book, True Crime Survival Guide, How to Stay Safe in a Dangerous World. It's packed with life-saving information, and you can find the link in the description and pinned comment below. Trust me, after hearing this story, you'll understand why awareness can save your life. The perfect life, or was it? Perth, Western Australia, 2020. To the outside world, they had it all. Andre Rebelo and his partner Gracie Piscopo were living the dream that millions of people scroll through every single day on social media. The luxury Range Rover, the exotic holidays, the designer shopping sprees, the spacious home, the beautiful baby. Picture-perfect couple goals, right? But let me tell you something about social media. It's the world's most convincing liar. Andre met Gracie back in 2015 when he was just 19 years old, fresh-faced and captivated by this determined woman who was building something extraordinary. Gracie had worked as a gym receptionist before she discovered the power of social media. She started posting photos online, and suddenly, everything changed. Her follower count exploded. Brands were flooding her inbox with offers. She was making around $170,000 annually, sharing her life, her looks, her lifestyle with the world. For a young Andre, watching his girlfriend's meteoric rise must have felt intoxicating. Here was someone who'd cracked the code to success without a traditional career path. So what did Andre do? He dropped out of university to become Gracie's assistant, her manager, her business partner. He negotiated contracts, managed finances, chose which opportunities to pursue. For his efforts, he earned $20,000 a year while Gracie raked in the big money. But Andre wanted more. He wanted his own success story. So he turned to cryptocurrency, convinced he'd discovered the golden ticket to wealth. He assured Gracie their investments would pay off big time, that they just needed to be patient. "Trust me," he'd say, "this is going to make us rich." Not everyone was buying into Andre's vision of success. His mother, Colleen Rebelo, a 58-year-old teacher and mother of 4, watched her son's choices with growing concern. She'd confide in close friends, worry etched into every conversation. "He's thrown away his education for this," she'd say. "What happens when they get older, when new influencers come along? What happens when the likes stop coming?" Colleen had raised her 4 children, 3 sons and a daughter, on her own after her marriage ended in 2010. She'd worked tirelessly as a teacher, sacrificing her own dreams to give her children stability. But now, at 58, she was finally pursuing what she wanted. She just completed a degree and was excited to start a new career in healthcare. After years of putting everyone else first, Colleen was stepping into her own future. She had no idea how little time she had left. The day everything changed. May 25, 2020. A Monday morning that started like any other in the Rebelo household. Colleen spoke with her children that morning. Her youngest son, Fabian, was living with her. Her daughter, Monique, Andre's twin, was temporarily staying with her while training as a paramedic. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed safe. Fabian, who worked part-time at a nearby supermarket, had a routine. His mother would drive him to work at 10:00 a.m. and pick him up at 2:00 p.m. It was their thing, reliable as clockwork. Colleen never missed a pickup. Never. But that day, when Fabian finished his shift and walked out into the parking lot, his mother wasn't there. He waited. He checked his watch. He looked around. Nothing. He pulled out his phone and called her. No answer. He called again. And again. 13 times he dialed his mother's number, and 13 times silence greeted him on the other end. Can you imagine that feeling? That growing knot of dread in your stomach? Something was wrong. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. Fabian started walking home. It was only a 10 to 15-minute journey, but every step must have felt like an eternity. His mother was health conscious, sure. She had Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, and minor heart issues, but she was strong. She was always there. She wouldn't just disappear. When Fabian reached the house and stepped inside, he heard something. Water running. The shower was on. Relief must have washed over him for just a moment. She's home. She's just in the shower. That's why she didn't pick me up. "Mum," he called out. No response. "Mum," louder this time. Still nothing. The sound of running water continued, steady and unchanging. Fabian called her name several more times, his voice growing more urgent with each attempt. Finally, uncomfortable as it was, he knew he had to check the bathroom. He opened the door and the world stopped. Every time someone scrolls past, another woman's suffering fades into silence. Don't let that happen. Subscribe and make her story matter. Under the running shower, Colleen was kneeling on the floor, leaning against the wall in an unnatural position. Her body showed no signs of life. Fabian didn't freeze, didn't waste a second. He pulled his mother's body out from under the water, covered her with a towel, and frantically called emergency services. While waiting for the ambulance, he started CPR, desperately trying to bring her back. The shower water had been warm, but his mother's body felt cold. Her face and neck had turned a disturbing bluish-gray color. He kept going, kept pushing, kept trying until the paramedics arrived and took over. It was too late. Colleen Rebelo was dead. Fabian immediately messaged his sister Monique, telling her to come home as quickly as possible. He tried calling his brother Andre, but got no reply. It wasn't until Monique arrived home around 3 and started calling and texting Andre that he finally showed up at their mother's house with Gracie and their son. The entire family was in shock. Just that morning they'd spoken to Colleen. She'd seemed fine, normal. How could she just be gone? Something doesn't add up. An autopsy was performed, but it couldn't determine Colleen's cause of death. The official conclusion leaned toward natural causes, but Colleen's children couldn't accept it. Something felt wrong. Several details didn't make sense. When Fabian found his mother, she was still wearing her gold wristwatch. Colleen always removed her watch before showering. Always. She was also wearing her jewelry, another thing she religiously took off before getting in the shower, and the anti-slip mat she used every single time she showered. It was draped over the side of the bathtub, unused. Why would a cautious woman, who always followed the same routine, suddenly change everything on the day she died? The police who responded to the scene found no signs of forced entry. Every window and door was secure. There was no evidence of foul play. Despite the family's unease, they had no choice but to accept the conclusion. Colleen had died of natural causes. But then, a few weeks later, everything changed. The insurance bombshell. An insurance company contacted the police with a shocking revelation. They suspected fraud. The documents submitted to them appeared to be forged, and the person they suspected, Andre Rebelo, Colleen's own son. Here's where this story takes a turn that'll make your skin crawl. Just 1 week before his mother died, Andre had taken out 3 separate life insurance policies in Colleen's name. If she died, he would receive $1,150,000. None of his siblings were named as beneficiaries. Not Fabian, not Monique, not Julian, the oldest. Just Andre would receive every single penny. And Andre wasted no time. Just 3 days after his mother's death, he contacted all 3 insurance companies attempting to claim the payout. 3 days. His mother's body was barely cold. 2 of the companies immediately refused, citing the suspiciously short time between the policy activation and Colleen's death. But the 3rd company considered paying out, asking Andre to submit additional documentation. That's when the house of cards began to collapse. If stories like this make you want to protect the innocent and expose the truth, then don't just watch. Subscribe. That single click could be the reason another story finally gets heard. The documents Andre submitted were riddled with inconsistencies. One listed the wrong date of birth for Colleen, using Andre's birthday instead. When the company requested new paperwork, Andre quickly provided it, but the red flags just kept multiplying. The insurance company uncovered forged medical reports. A fabricated autopsy stating Colleen had died from a ruptured aneurysm causing a subarachnoid hemorrhage. A falsified will nomming Andre the sole heir to his mother's estate. An altered psychiatric report claiming Colleen had been mentally fit when signing documents. Andre had even used artificial intelligence to generate an audio recording in a voice that wouldn't sound like his own. The level of planning, the depth of deception, it was staggering. When confronted by police, Andre had an answer ready. My mother knew about all of this. She asked me to help secure our financial future. The agreement was that I'd divide the money equally among my siblings later. But investigators weren't buying it. The altered will, the life insurance policies, the timing of Colleen's death, it all pointed to one terrifying conclusion. Andre might have killed his own mother. The family was devastated to learn about the additional insurance policies and the will. Why would their mother do this? Colleen had never shown favoritism toward any of her children. None of them expected her to leave everything to just one person. And if she were going to choose someone to manage her affairs, wouldn't it be Julian, the oldest son? After Colleen's death, Julian had moved into her house temporarily to settle her affairs. But when he tried to locate his mother's important documents, he discovered something disturbing. He couldn't find her driving license or other identification anywhere. Andre claimed he'd taken them because he wanted to handle the inheritance matters himself. Then Julian discovered something even more bizarre. Andre had redirected all of their mother's mail to his own address. Why? The house wasn't empty. Fabian and Monique were still living there and could easily receive their mother's mail. The pieces were coming together, and the picture they formed was monstrous. If you're still watching and haven't subscribed, I'm honestly curious what's holding you back. Drop it in the comments. I actually want to know. Police re-interviewed everyone connected to Colleen. Her children, Gracie, friends, colleagues, and that's when a crucial piece of information emerged. Colleen's sister testified that on May 25th, when she was returning home from work around 1:30 p.m., she'd driven past Colleen's house and noticed a car in the driveway that she didn't recognize. She had no idea who it belonged to. But later, at Colleen's funeral, she saw the same vehicle, and she watched as Andre and Gracie got into it. This meant Andre had been at his mother's house on the day she died, and he hadn't told anyone. When police asked Andre why he hadn't mentioned seeing his mother on the day of her death, his response was chilling in its casualness. No one asked me. No one asked him. His mother was found dead, and it didn't occur to him to mention he'd been there that very day. Under questioning, Andre finally admitted he'd been at his mother's house on May 25th for about 45 to 50 minutes, roughly between 10:40 and 11:30 a.m. He claimed Colleen hadn't seemed to be in the best mood. She was stressed about turning 60 soon, he said, preoccupied with the passage of time and aging. That's why she wanted to purchase the additional insurance policies, Andre told investigators. And during our conversation, she said something about how it might be better if she were no longer alive. I think she was contemplating taking her own life. Was he really trying to paint his mother as suicidal? A woman who had just completed her degree and was excited about starting a new career. Meanwhile, Gracie's account told a different story. She stated that on that day, she and her cousin were planning to go out for lunch, but at some point she realized Andre wasn't home. He hadn't told her he was leaving. She tried calling him multiple times, but he didn't answer. According to her phone records, Gracie called Andre 12 times and sent multiple messages asking where he was and why he wasn't responding. She admitted she was very upset. Her cousin was already at their house, waiting to leave for the restaurant, but Andre was nowhere to be found and wasn't answering his phone. This continued until 2:00 p.m. when Andre returned home as if nothing had happened. He simply asked where they'd like to go for lunch. Gracie was surprised by his behavior but didn't press the issue. She could tell he wasn't willing to explain. But here's what's interesting. Before they left, Gracie recalled that Andre sent a message to his mother asking if she could babysit their son that evening. Think about that. If Andre had just spent nearly an hour with his mother that morning, if she'd been talking about not wanting to live anymore, wouldn't he have mentioned that to Gracie? Wouldn't he have been concerned? Instead, he was asking his supposedly suicidal mother to babysit. Investigators, now convinced that Andre had killed his mother, needed concrete evidence. They made a bold move. They placed surveillance devices in Andre and Gracie's home during a search. One listening device in the bedroom, one camera in the living room. For 3 months, police monitored their conversations, and what they heard was revealing. Gracie knew nothing about the insurance policies Andre had taken out. When she found out, she was furious. She was well aware that a scandal of this magnitude could damage her reputation and cause her to lose sponsors, her livelihood, everything she'd built. "If you killed your mother and the truth comes out, you're going to prison," Gracie told Andre during one recorded conversation. Andre's response: he was confident it wouldn't happen. He believed he'd successfully claim the insurance money and avoid imprisonment. His plan was to leave the country as soon as the funds were transferred. Here's a question I want you to think about, and this is for our genuine cold crime cases viewers who really engage with these stories. What would you do differently if you were in Gracie's position? If you discovered your partner might have murdered their own mother for money, what would your next move be? Tell us in the comments, because your answer might actually help someone in a similar situation someday. Imagine if it was your daughter, your sister, or your friend. Would you want their story buried under noise or told with care? Subscribing helps make sure nobody's story fades away. Not ready to subscribe? That's okay, but at least tell me why in the comments. I want to learn from you. But investigators still had one burning question. Why would Andre do this? Together, he and Gracie earned good money. They appeared to afford things others only dreamed of. What would drive someone to murder their own mother? The answer came when investigators delved deeper into the couple's finances. Everything they presented on social media was a complete and utter lie. They were not doing well financially, not even close. The grand house they lived in, they rented it for $880 a week. The white Range Rover that appeared in all their photos, purchased on finance, and they were behind on the payments. Most of their luxurious trips and hotel stays were sponsored by advertisers who thought they were working with successful influencers. The truth was devastating. Gracie and Andre were living far beyond their means, spending more than they earned. They wanted to project an image of a couple surrounded by luxury, and that illusion came at a crushing cost. At the time of Colleen's death, the couple had debts totaling $120,000. They were behind on their rent, behind on their car payments. Gracie also had overdue taxes totaling $40,000 that she hadn't even been aware of because Andre managed all their finances. And remember Andre's cryptocurrency investments, the ones he'd been so confident about. After 3 years of investing and telling everyone he was going to make $500,000, Andre had managed to earn exactly $22. $22. He knew his investment was a complete failure, but he was unwilling to admit it. Debt collection agencies were putting increasing pressure on him. He needed money fast. And that's when, it seems, he concluded that insuring his mother's life and then ending it would solve all his problems. This plan would provide the funds he desperately needed and allow him to pretend the money came from his cryptocurrency investments, solidifying his image as a successful investor in everyone's eyes. So how did he do it? How did Andre Rebelo murder his own mother? The truth is, we may never know the exact method. There was no physical evidence proving how Andre killed Colleen. The cause of her death was never definitively determined, but expert witnesses testified during his trial, explaining that it is entirely possible to end someone's life without leaving visible marks. Colleen had minor abrasions on her eyebrows and arms, initially overlooked but later theorized to have been caused by suffocation with a pillow. But this was just one possibility. The exact manner of Colleen's death remains unclear. What is clear is the circumstantial evidence that painted a damning picture. Andre had been at his mother's house longer than he initially told investigators. Colleen's sister saw his car parked outside at 1:30 p.m., though Andre claimed to have left before noon. During those hours, he didn't answer multiple calls from Gracie, which was completely unlike him. If he was just visiting his mother, why the radio silence? Investigators also discovered that Andre had deleted all records from his computer after July 2020. Everything. His search history, his online activity, all of it gone. And just days before Colleen's death, he'd purchased those 3 life insurance policies in her name. The picture becomes even clearer when you understand the timeline. Colleen's sister saw Andre's car at the house at 1:30 p.m. Fabian tried to reach his mother starting around 2:00 p.m. when she didn't pick him up from work. He called 13 times with no answer. He arrived home sometime between 2:10 and 2:15 p.m. and found his mother under the running shower. The shower water was still warm, but Colleen's body was cold. Her face and neck had already begun to show discoloration. Medical experts would later testify that based on the body's condition, Colleen had likely been dead for at least an hour, possibly longer. Which means she probably died while Andre was still in the house, or shortly after he left. This took me hours of painful research, reading autopsies, police files, and the cries of women that were ignored. If you felt safe watching from your screen, the least you can do is hit that red subscribe button. In November 2022, Andre Zachary Rebelo was charged with his mother's murder and arrested. The trial began in October 2024 and lasted 8 intense weeks. Andre pleaded not guilty to the charge of murder. After deliberating for 2 days, the jury returned to the courtroom on December 5, 2024, with their verdict. Guilty. 28-year-old Andre Zachary Rebelo was found guilty of murdering his own mother for money. He was sentenced on April 1, 2025, and is expected to serve a life sentence without the possibility of parole. The court also addressed the fraud charges. Andre admitted to forging documents for the insurance companies, so no trial was necessary for those crimes. The judge delivered sentencing for those offenses as well. This case haunts me for so many reasons. A mother who raised 4 children on her own, who worked tirelessly as a teacher, who finally pursued her own dreams at 58, only to have her life stolen by the son she'd loved and raised. For what? For money he never even received. For a lifestyle that was nothing but smoke and mirrors. Colleen Rebelo died alone in her home, possibly calling out for help that never came, at the hands of someone she trusted completely. Her last moments must have been filled with confusion, terror, and heartbreak. And Andre, he spent 3 days after her death filing insurance claims. He showed up to her funeral. He hugged his siblings while they grieved. He looked them in the eyes, knowing what he'd done. The mask of social media perfection hid a monster. Behind the luxury photos and the couple goals posts was a man drowning in debt, desperate enough to murder his own mother. And he almost got away with it. This story should remind us all of something crucial. What we see online is rarely the full truth. Behind the filters and the carefully curated posts, real people are struggling with real problems. Some handle those problems with integrity. Others, like Andre Rebelo, choose a path so dark it defies comprehension. Before we close, I want to remind you again about my book, True Crime Survival Guide: How to Stay Safe in a Dangerous World. It's specifically written for women, packed with practical advice on recognizing danger, trusting your instincts, and protecting yourself. After hearing stories like Colleen's, where someone was victimized by the person they should have been able to trust most, you understand why awareness matters. Grab your copy from the link in the description or pinned comment. If this case moved you, if it made you think, if it reminded you to look beyond the surface, please hit that like button and share this video. Subscribe to Cold Crime Cases so you never miss a story. Your engagement helps us bring awareness to these cases and honors the memories of victims like Colleen Rebelo. Justice was served for Colleen, but she should still be here, starting that healthcare career she was so excited about, watching her grandchildren grow, living the life she'd finally started building for herself. Rest in peace, Colleen Rebelo. Your story will not be forgotten. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next case. Stay safe out there.